Shalom friends, I represent Shu Sri Lanka and I would like to welcome you all to this special broadcast of the Night of the Bride. Our beloved Mashiach told us in John 14:2 that in his Father's house there are many dwelling places and that he goes to prepare a place for us. Then in Revelation 21:2 we see the fulfillment of this promise, where we see the holy city coming down from heaven, clothed like a bride, adorned for her husband. Let us pay very close attention to this verse, as there are many aspects to note. Clothed like a bride, made ready for the husband, a holy city, a city with people, a city with gates, coming down from heaven. So what is this city? Who is this bride? Revelation 7:9 gives us an idea who this bride is. A huge crowd, too large for anyone to count, from every nation, tribe, people and language. They were standing in front of the throne and in front of the Lamb, dressed in white robes and holding palm branches in their hands. So let us look closely at this holy city. Revelation 21:12 tells us that this city has only 12 gates by the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. Revelation 21 verses 16 and 17 also tells us that this holy city has dimensions to it. So this should raise two questions in our minds as believers. Is there enough space for this huge crowd, too large for anyone to even count? Is there enough room? For there is dimensions to this city. And secondly, how did this crowd from every nation, tribe, people and language enter when the gates are only having the names of the 12 tribes of Israel? To look for the answers to these questions, we have to go to the Torah. In Parshat Shemini, which is a picture of the 8th day, gives us the answer in Leviticus 9 verse 24. The background to this verse is the inauguration period of the tabernacle climaxed with the priestly service where Aaron and his sons were consecrated as Kohanim. At this ceremony, when all the people saw that fire came forth from the presence of Adonai and consumed the burnt offerings and the fat on the altar, they shouted and fell on their faces. And there is a very interesting commentary from Yalkut about the term they shouted and fell on their faces. Let me read Yalkut's commentary about the term and fell upon their faces. Yalkut says, in addition to the miracle of the fire, the people noted the miracle that the entire nation was in the tiny 50 cubit square area of the courtyard in front of the tabernacle. Yet there was room for everyone. They fell on their hands and knees in awe and gratitude, and everyone had 4 cubits of space for himself. Thereupon the Spirit of holiness came upon them, and they sang out in praise of God. This means that in this tiny space, the entire nation of Israel was prostrating themselves, and there was enough room for everyone. How is this even possible? Think of the tabernacle as a place outside of time and space, but yet on earth. That gives us the answer to our question of how the holy city that comes down from heaven to earth, having enough space for the multitude of people that can't be even counted. Now, let us go back to the Torah to find the answer to our second question. Exodus 12:38 tells us that a mixed multitude of non-Israelites from foreign nations also left Egypt with the children of Israel. From the Hebrew term used in this verse, Erev Rav, used for the mixed multitude, we know that this was a great number of non-Israelites. But when we come to the first census after the children of Israel coming out of Egypt, and the first census is recorded in Numbers 1-2 onwards, we see that there is no mention of any count of the mixed multitude of the non-Israelites. So, what happened to this great multitude? The answer is they were grafted into Israel. They grafted themselves into Israel. They were no more separate nations or people when they entered the promised land. So, now we have the answer to the second question too. Why there are only 12 gates by the names of the 12 tribes of Israel? As the nations have to be grafted into Israel to enter the holy city. Rav Shaul talks about this extensively over and over in the New Testament. Now you will understand the importance of how the believers are supposed to prepare themselves as the bride. As this bride has to be dressed in a specific way, and there is a specific way to enter the city. And that is by grafting yourself to the authentic Messianic Jewish way. Clearly there is enough room for everyone. If you so choose to come out of the nations and be grafted into the Jewish people today, so that you will be part of the house of Israel, the commonwealth of Israel. We see the invitation from our beloved Mashiach in Revelation 18:4 when he says, "My people, come out of her, so that you will not share in her sins, so that you will not be infected by her plagues." He gave us this warning so that we can come out of the nations and be part of the holy city and be with the Mashiach, as it is said in John 14:3. In John 14:3 it says, "And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back again and I will take you to myself, so that where I am, you may also be." For this reason, we should make a decision today to come out of the nations and be grafted into the Jewish people. While we wait for the return of the Mashiach on a night like this, let us be like the 5 wise virgins who enter the holy city with the groom, and not be like the 5 foolish virgins who are not able to enter the holy city. Friends, there is enough room for everyone, but there is a way, there is a method, there is a way that we have to prepare ourselves as the bride, so that we may be acceptable to the husband and enter through the gates to the holy city. Thank you all for listening, and I wish you all a hug, Shavuot Sameach, and blessings in Messiah Yeshua. Amen ve Amen.